being a loyal listener to the Contractor Growth Network podcast. Because of your loyalty, we decided to create a whole new YouTube channel specifically for the podcast. What this does is it allows us to create content that is specifically designed around the podcast itself. So this will be the podcast, the clips, and even some shorts, all designed around that so that you can have the information that you want the way you want it. So for the time being, the podcast will be posted on both the Contractor Growth Network YouTube as well as the Contractor Growth Network podcast YouTube. So you can watch them in both locations, but eventually we will switch over specifically to just the podcast YouTube. So if you want to keep listening to the podcast on YouTube, you'll have to go over to that channel and subscribe to that channel. You can find that link in our description down below. Thank you again for being a loyal listener, and I can't wait to produce more content specifically for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Contractor Growth Network podcast. I'm Logan Shinholser, and today we've got on owner, founder, CEO. Do you go by CEO, Kyle?
Not technically, but I liked where you're going. Add some more. What else we got?
Big man on campus. The only person in the company that can bench 350. We've got from Remodelers on the Rise, Kyle Hunt. Kyle, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
That was a great intro.
I just took a poetic justice on what your bench max was. I figured if nothing else, you could at least load up the weight for 350. So that's got to count for something.
300. I mean, I can guarantee you, I never have touched close to 350 bench. I never will. Now, if we move the decimal over, I can take care of that.
You're there. Perfect. So,
but I am pretty sure I can take everybody else in my company in bench press. No offense, Bailey. No offense, Cassie. No offense.
Yeah. I do know, when I go to CrossFit, if there's I'm not super strong, but a lot of guys are, I'll put what I failed at. And I'm like, oh, I failed at this, 700-pound deadlift. I failed at that. I'm nowhere close to it. But if you write you failed at it, then people just assume that was a reasonable rep to go after. So as long as you say oh yeah, I failed at 350 the other day, I think that still counts.
Oh, I definitely failed at it.
Yeah. So what we're going through today, Kyle, is the Remodelers Roadmap. I have it printed out in front of me. I know you take all your clients through this, but what I'd love to do first is talk through what is the roadmap and why do we have a roadmap?
Well, we have a roadmap because running a remodeling business is complicated and it is complex. Now, I might be a little jaded. I've been coaching remodelers for 16 plus years, so I have a soft spot in my heart for remodelers. But if you really line up your business, your remodeling contracting business against other small businesses and talk about the complexity of what you do, dealing with coming into people's homes and interrupting their day in and day out, all of the job site cleanliness, all of the requirements, all of the pressure against marketing and sales and coordinating schedule. It is a very complicated business. I sometimes say, hey, remodeler, if you're wondering why running your remodeling business is so hard, it's because it is stinking hard. It's a hard business. It's easier to run a coaching business than it is to run a remodeling business. Would you say the same thing for your empire too? Just say yes. Make them feel better.
I was going to need some more context to then give it a hell yes. But
go ahead.
It's tough, man. And yeah, I mean, as somebody who's gone through a remodel, there's so many moving pieces. Then it comes down to finding the right balance of how many projects should this PM be on? Should they be on 3, which is super high touch, which is awesome, but that's going to shift down your margins because then if you're going to run more projects, or is the sweet spot 8? So there's so many different moving parts with the remodeling business that I definitely, at times I look at it and I'm like, man, they build the most beautiful stuff. But other times I'm like, man, it just seems so complicated.
Yeah. So part of my job and something I've been working hard on the last few years, especially, is trying to simplify things, trying to bring some clarity to a complicated business. And the more I've been working on that, the more I go, let me work through this give it a great name. Who doesn't love the Remodelers Roadmap? And take the complexity of all these different areas of our business and try to summarize it down to 6 main systems that you have in an effort to give you kind of quiet your mind, give you a little bit more clarity on the moving parts and pieces. And certainly there's a lot of subpoints underneath each of these, but it allows us to see more clearly areas that you're doing well and areas that you need to work on.
And with this roadmap, so it goes financial system, then marketing, then sales, then production, then people, then ops. How did you come up with that exact order for this is where you need to go?
Oh, I took the 6 systems. I put them on a little dartboard. I grabbed some darts, tossed that dart up there, and the first one was financial. All
So
right,
money first, baby.
There we go. Yeah,
that fits.
There's a little bit of, you can divide a remodeling business into 8 main systems. You could change the orders of these. So it's actually kind of like how I like to think of remodeling. There's a lot of different ways to be successful in remodeling. You could probably move these around a little bit, but the reason I approached it this way is what I have seen in my coaching of, at this point, hundreds of remodelers, of really getting to know a remodeling business over and over and over again. I know that we need to have a foundation in strong financials, in a strong financial system. And I know that when we really dial that in and are strong with understanding our pricing, understanding how to read our profit and loss statement, understanding what gross profit versus net profit, understanding our overhead, understanding job costing, when we have strength there, you have a much, much better shot at turning this business into something that supports your life and is not sucking your life away from you. And that allows you, for all of the work and the risk that you put into building a business, to be handsomely rewarded for that by having healthy financials, healthy net profits. So that's really why that's number one. And you could you're not going to argue with me because you're a sweetheart, but I could line up a bunch of people who might want to argue with me on that. I'm firm on that. Like, we need that foundation in place.
So when it comes to, let's say you figure the financials out, do you need to be at like a 10 out of 10 per Kyle Hunt's, standard before you move on to step 2, which is marketing? Or is this more of like a nuanced thing where it's like, look, like your net profit right now is, I don't know, let's say 10%. You could definitely, because you're higher volume, so your net profit's $1 million off 10%, which is way different than somebody that does $1 million a year. Their net profit's $100,000. So, like, are there nuances to this, or is it like you got to be at this stage before you really want to focus on the next piece?
We have something called a starting line when people if somebody reaches out and says, Kyle, I've been following your work. I like what you have to say. I need to work on the business side of my remodeling business, not just the production and the marketing. So we start at the starting line of going through their financial recap, going through their pricing, and I have a little time management module I like to start people with. To answer your question, there's flexibility in it. Yes, we want to start with the starting line. We want to get into the financials. After that, people kind of which you want to say, yes, you just then go to step 2 and then you move to step 3. But no. It is a bit flexible, because I have clients that are in my VIP club that are kind of walking through the roadmap that have a great number of leads coming in. Their marketing side of things is looking really strong, but they're struggling to convert those leads into paying projects. I want them to dive deep into the sales system. How are they going to build know, like, and trust in the sales process? How are they going to convert those leads into paying projects? So we want them to go to kind of system number 3. Others will sit here and go, man, the phone is not ringing. I've done a lot of sales training. I feel really good with building relationship and rapport and differentiating ourselves once we have the lead, but things are really quiet right now. All right, you're going to spend this next month or 2 really locked in on the marketing system. So there's some flexibility depending on where they're at. And no, they do not have to be 10 out of 10 on various things. I mean, the reality of working on your remodeling business is that all 6 of these systems need your attention now and 2 years from now and 5 years from now, you're always going to be working on tweaking and improving the various aspects of these.
So is with the Starline idea, is it like, look, we want to get all 6 systems up to a 5 out of 10 first, and then we'll go back and really pick apart like what we need better? Or is it like, don't even worry about the other ones until we get the first one to a 5 out of 10?
It's a little bit more the starting line. Let's go through those items and make sure you're solid there. The reason that I almost used the word birthed. That sounds weird. The reason that was birthed, if you will, is some people would come into the program we have called the VIP Club, and we would be talking about production, let's say, or we would be talking about the people system and one-on-one meetings. And they would kind of come in midstream, and that's good stuff. That's good. That's good training. You know, let's say we're doing a training on the final 5% of a project. Super important to purposefully and thoughtfully and systematically approach the hardest part of the remodeling production process of the final 5%. So I'd have somebody, oh, I'm learning about that. Oh, I'm learning about this. But what they really need to do first is make sure they understand their financials, make sure their pricing is clear, and get control of their time management. So that's really what that came from, of going, let's check off some of these early things and early wins and early clarity before we move on to the next thing. People love to chase after the bright, shiny object. Kyle, I know you want me to talk and do training on understanding my profit and loss statement so I can tell you about markup and margin and my gross profit margin and my overhead, but I really would love to talk about ChatGPT. Stop it. No, we've got to talk about the stuff that you might be avoiding, that you need to lean into and take from a 1 out of 10 to a 5 or 6 or 7 out of 10, so that then you have that foundation in a more healthy business. Have you ever seen people want to chase the bright, shiny object, Logan?
Just every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine it's a lot like in your world. You have people that probably come in and they're like, well, if I could just get better projects, then, you know, and focus on getting them done faster, that will then lead to a much healthier margin. I don't really know what the margin is right now, but I know that what's in my immediate control is I could yell at my PM to hurry the stuff up, which ultimately is going to impact the financials. So let me focus there first and only there, and let the numbers work themselves out as they may. So we
deal with
that. Yeah, we deal with that a lot, where it's like our first step is like, look, you do high-end stuff. Like, you cannot have iPhone photos anymore. Like, we have graduated from the iPhone photo level. This is a $250,000 project. Get your butt out there and get a professional photographer, because like, even what you would, well, let me ask you this, Kyle. You're from Detroit. You know cars. Big car buff over there, guys, if you guys didn't know that about Kyle. Wow. Kyle, what would you say from a brand perspective is the most starter-friendly car company at this point?
Starter-friendly.
Because it used to be like Saturn, and like that's now gone.
Yeah. Now, first, everybody, if you're watching the video, we got the map of Michigan here. Now, Logan struggles with the map of Michigan. He said, "Hey, Kyle, you're from Detroit. Now, Detroit's over here by kind of your thumb area. An hour from Detroit, but we're over here more in Ann Arbor, kind of north of that in Brighton. Now, did my dad work for Ford Motor Company, which then was a spinoff to Visteon, which was a tier 1 supplier? Does my buddy work at GM? Yes. I am an expert at coaching remodelers. I'm stinking good at it. As far as knowing the best starter brand for cars, Logan, Toyota's coming to my mind. They're very reliable. Very reliable.
See, I think Kia used to be the one. And the reason I bring it up is people used to say, look, I know Mercedes does high-end stuff and Bugatti does high-end stuff, but I'm not there. And I'm like, go to Kia's website. Tell me, are they just showing iPhone photos, or are they really leaning into this stuff? So we have to start at like the right pieces. And just so everybody knows, Kyle has really big knuckles. So when I was trying to point out on the hand where he was, it was more of like a visibility thing from where I'm sitting. Yeah, and he wears big rings.
No, I usually don't. That is my ring now. I'm 42 years old, folks. I'm coming up on my 20th anniversary. This is the video. If you're watching the video, you're getting a treat. Now, I've been having trouble. It's getting to the point, Logan, where I'm almost needing to take this ring to the jewelers and get it resized. It's been swelling.
That's because you're probably banging your fist on the table anytime somebody comes in wanting to talk about ChatGPT.
Potentially. Now, the
Yeah.
other thing for those of you watching, and Logan, I know this is a professional podcast, but this will be helpful for people. I have noticed that my hands are looking more and more like an old man, and I have just recently purchased some retinol cream, which was a recommendation from an expert friend of my wife's. So as I hold that up, if you're going, man, your hand looks great for a 42-year-old, that's because my skincare regimen has been elevated.
That was
Just like you need to elevate your brand by going with CGN, people.
That was my next question was what are you doing with those knuckles right now? But I appreciate you proactively answering that. So
You're welcome.
Jumping back into this, the financial system, are there certain numbers? Like, are you like, hey, everybody, you got to know top line, bottom line, I don't know, gross profit margin, which, how do you then know, am I on the right path for at least understanding my financial system before moving over to the next piece?
If I'm talking to Josh Nelson Builders, if you're listening to this, Josh, hey, longtime client of mine. First, when Josh reached out to me years ago, if I said, Josh, pull up your profit and loss statement, tell me about it. Well, okay, yeah, that's our revenue at the top. What is this section called? Cost of goods sold. Yeah. Hey, why is your in-house labor, Josh, down in overhead expenses? I don't know. It was that kind of thing. If you pull up your profit and loss statement in front of Josh Nelson right now, he's going to put on a clinic. He's going to talk about his markup versus the margin. He's going to take his gross profit. He's going to divide that by his total revenue. He's going to tell you the margin. He's going to say, we sell at X margin. I've got 2% slippage here. He's going to talk about work in progress adjustments. He's going to talk about his overhead expenses, not only the dollars, but also the percentage of overhead expenses compared to revenue. He's going to talk about net profit. And when he looks at the net profit at the bottom, he's going to say, it says 200,000 right there, but out of that comes my owner draw. Out of that comes fill in the blank. He is going to be able to teach you about his profit loss statement just as well as he would teach you about what is going on with moving that wall in that kitchen and all the different elements that go into it. His skill in remodeling is up here, and his skill in understanding his financials used to be down here, and now he's elevated his skill with financials to equal his skill in actual remodeling. And that's the growth that I see a lot of my clients go through, and that's the growth that a lot of remodelers need to be focused on. So how's that for an answer?
That was great. Do you find people learn, like with Josh, at this point, does he love numbers? And it was just because he was always a numbers guy and he just didn't know where to put cogs on his P&L? Or has he, as time has gone on, once you get more, I don't know, control and you can see what's going on, it doesn't feel like this nebulous thing. He's learned to genuinely enjoy looking at the numbers.
Yeah. So whether it's Josh, whether it's Stu Kavner, hey Stu, Stu's another one that comes to my mind of just tremendous growth and understanding this. I could list off a lot of folks. And for people listening who are more of a 1 or 2 out of 10 when it comes to understanding your financials, what I see most, Logan, is that people are not skilled at it, are not knowledgeable about it. It intimidates them. Numbers confuse them, and they stick their head in the sand like an ostrich. Did you know that ostriches actually don't do that?
I've heard that. Yeah.
It's an urban myth, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. That I'm just going to avoid it. And if you are a lead carpenter and you work for a company, you can avoid financials for the most part. If you're a project manager for a successful remodeling company, you can avoid financials for the most part. If you're a business owner who is making your livelihood and making the livelihood happen for all of your team members, you need to understand your financials. For some people, they just need to lean into it, get through the fear of it, learn it step by step, and they continue to grow. For others, they just need to slow down and make it more of a priority and spend some more time with it.
Cool. Love it. So we nail the financials. We have a good baseline. We understand, basically, we know what's going on. There's nothing that's going to be surprising us. Now we move over to marketing. So what do you need to know from a marketing system standpoint if you're a remodeler?
I was talking to a remodeler yesterday, and it was actually, I'll not use the name because it's not the most happy example of it. I'm talking to it's a husband-wife team, and their daughter's kind of doing work with them now. If they're listening to this, hi, how you doing? And the daughter, we were talking about marketing, and she said the following words, Logan, it broke my heart. It's going to break your heart. I don't like marketing. Oh. And it broke my heart. And I said, hey, one thing you need to know is a big part of your job in this company. I look at your job description. Yeah, you're doing some things here, you're doing some things there, but marketing's a big factor in it. You need to love marketing. You need to lean into it. You need to realize that marketing is the engine that fuels your business. And the more that you avoid it, the more that you don't lean into it, the more that you don't study it, the more that you don't put the time into it, you're going to keep getting similar results. You guys are fine. You've been in business a long time. You do good work. You have good Google reviews. You're getting referrals, but you want to grow. You don't want to grow 5% this year, which you can usually do if you're in business for a long time and you're doing great work. You're going to get repeat and referral work. But you guys want to really grow, which means you need to really build your marketing system. So that was a little bit of encouragement to her. As far as just generally remodelers go, we need to, from a business owner standpoint, be students of marketing, but we don't necessarily have to be the ones executing it. We can partner up with a company like CGN who can take a lot of the heavy lifting of content and website and search engine optimization and video work. But I, as the business owner, should not just kind of write a check and then send it over there and not deal with it. You, as the business owner, need to be invested in it. And the more that you are involved and thinking about marketing, the more successful your marketing is going to be.
Yeah, it's funny. We've now started. We updated all of our contracts to now include, and it's funny. Jacob and Katie Thompson commented on this, and they were like, "We're going to
shout out
this
to Home Run Solutions."
Yeah, they're like, "We're going to add this to all of our contracts too, where we now require, if you're going to work with us, you have to initial that you will respond within 72 hours." Just because it's so much of a partnership, especially the more that we're into this, the more that we're realizing like this is not a set and forget it thing. So typically when we hear I've been burned or I hate marketing, a lot of it is just like there's a lack of involvement from the remodeling company. And it's, you don't have to go in there and write schema or do all this nerdy stuff, but you do have to at least say, hey, I just did this really cool project. This is what the clients absolutely loved. Is there something there? And we're like, there's 100% something there. Like if they love it, everybody else is going to love it. So
as a business owner on the marketing side, you need to have a marketing plan. Who is your ideal client? What are your ideal projects? Let's really spend some time on that. Marketing strategy. What makes you different? We need to actually spend time with that, wrestle with that, get clear with that, create some content around that. And then you have all the marketing tactics. They're all the usual suspects that you all have heard of. Your website's the central hub of your marketing efforts. We got SEO, we got pay per click, we've got strategic partners. Anybody who shares the same ideal client as you. Those architects, those designers can be amazing for you. You need to stay in touch with your previous clients, Google reviews. The list goes on and on. Show me as a remodeling business owner, this is my marketing plan. And then right next to that, show me this is my marketing budget. Ooh, remodeler, if you've got a clear plan and the tactics and the strategy, and you've got a clear budget and you execute that, you are going to be multiple steps ahead of your competition. So lean into those things.
So it sounds like from your side, the top two things is to have a plan and to have a budget. And that's where we start.
Yes.
Love it.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah. Because at least that way, let's say you do it and it doesn't work. At least you know one way that it didn't work versus either one, we didn't do it or we changed so much. It's, we've had people come to us of I want to really market for this. And we start doing that. And they're like, never mind, complete 180. We're going this other direction. And we're like, well, we didn't even have enough time to see this thing through. And then a year later, it's, it's not as, it's not as many leads as I thought it was going to be. And it was like, well, yeah, 3 months in, we had to shift. So getting everything dialed in, sticking with it from a marketing agency perspective, huge.
Yes. And the other thing is marketing, when marketing is happening really, really well, the lead source of how people found you is murky. I want people to say, I saw your out sign. I saw your website. I see your social media. That's a good thing. At the same time, there is a lot of tracking you can and should be doing with your marketing. If you've generated 50 leads this year, I need to know, how did they find out about you? Ask that on the initial call. Ask that when you see them and track that. Do not come to me and say, hey, Kyle, we've been running this ad and they're asking for a renewal. Should we do it? The first thing I'm going to say is, well, how did it work? oh, well, we haven't really paid attention to that. So now we're just marketing by kind of throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. We need to be more systematic about that. It doesn't have to be super complex, but I think that's the heart of what we need to be thinking about with our marketing system.
Cool. Love it. All right. So we got finance down, marketing down, sales.
Oh, it's like we're moving right through the roadmap?
Slowly but surely, we're getting there.
What do you want to know about sales?
Tell me what is important here. I mean, I think especially as people are like first coming into this, they're selling to friends and family and it's all like super hot. We're referrals, we're doing probably smaller projects. So sales are like, hey, I've got like a 90% close rate. If I just get more marketing dialed in, man, I'm going to the moon. So from a sales perspective, I guess, what are you looking at when somebody comes to you to figure out, do they even have a sales system? Is it good? Is it not good? What does that look like?
Yeah. Under the sales system, the probably the biggest message I always have is 5 powerful words. This is how we work. If I'm Brian Sebring is one of my peer group coaches, and he was just going through his sales process last month when our peer group was in town. And if you ask Brian, hey Brian, tell me about your sales process, Brian isn't going to say, well, they call and, we have kind of a conversation. If it kind of sounds good, we do the following. No. First of all, they see step by step on the how we work, our process on his website. When he's talking to them, hey, step 1 is fill in the blank. Step 2 is fill in the blank. He has a step-by-step way of going about it. That is a huge aspect. It's crazy how the more and more I coach and see examples, the more and more vocal and clear I get with, please, I plead with you, remodeler, have a clear our process. This is how we work step by step. And I like to see it numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you give prospects clarity in the steps that are going to happen, it makes it easier for them to keep moving forward and to buy. And it helps it differentiates you, especially when we start getting into in the sales process. For a lot of you, you're charging for design and project development. Let's get real clear with how that works, the structure of it. So that's where I usually start is show me your process that you have. And then there's so many different things when it comes to sales training, what happens between the initial phone call and the in-person visit, and all these different things we can do. But that's where I start. That's a good foundation on your sales system.
And what percentage of people that when they come to you actually have a set sales process versus it's wishy-washy? Sometimes we do design, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we charge for it, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
What do you see?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of the time it's very wishy-washy. There's a lot of remodelers even listening to this that you're in kind of the early phase of your business where, you might be a little off the hammer now and doing more work in the office. You may be fully in the office and you're kind of getting it, from where you were at 0 up to, $800,000 of revenue or $1 million of revenue. A lot of times I see the sales system being very murky. And when you can fix it at that stage, it really can propel you into the next levels in your business. And then I see remodelers that are in that $1.5 million, $2.5 million that are reaching out and kind of have it in place, or they say things like, yeah, we spent some time on that. I've kind of gotten away from that. I probably need to freshen that up. So I see it all over the place, but here's what I do see. I see really successful remodelers who are kicking out a healthy net profit. It is very, very likely that there's a correlation between that net profit and having a real strong sales process.
And when you're talking to, say, somebody who's newer in this, is the issue with why they're so wishy-washy in the sales process because like they're doing sales, they're then being the PM, they're then doing, so essentially they've got 6 hats on essentially for all these different systems. They're running them all. And they're like, you know what? I just don't have time to dedicate towards that. Or is it like even the 3 million people coming in that have more of a team, it's still wishy-washy because it's always been wishy-washy?
I'd say on the early stage, it's the busyness and the lack of focus on it. Years ago, I came home and my wife said, "How's your day?" And I said, "Oh, it's good." Just gave the pat answer. And then for some reason that day, I don't know what was in her, but she goes, No, really, like, how was your day? Like, tell me about it. And I'm like, oh, well, I would love to tell you about it. Well, my first call was with so-and-so and we did this. And I went through all of my coaching calls for the day. And she said, I don't want to offend you, but what you just described, it seems like a lot of what you teach is just common sense stuff. And of course, I got brutally offended. No, I didn't. I said, honey, first of all, you're beautiful, is what I told her. You're the love of my life. And you are absolutely correct. Like, this stuff that I teach is not rocket science. It's practical, it's proven, it's simple, it's effective. But that doesn't mean it's easy to do, because you are pulled in so many different directions. So it's a matter, part of the roadmap's thought is, hey, you can't do all of this at once, but man, if you can prioritize and hyper focus on one area, dig into that, implement, and then you look up at the end of the month and you're like, I'm further along here. We've got a first draft of that. Let's get that out there. And you incrementally continue to improve. The tricky thing about business is that it never ends. The improvements never end. I've been in business almost 17 years. I have not found the end of my to-do list, and I never will. Same for you, right?
And I read The Endless Game, Infinite Game. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, Infinite Game. And that was so helpful to be like, because I was athlete growing up. They talk about it in the book. There's defined, how do you win? Like everybody in the NFL knows that like Super Bowl is the end result, and here are the rules, and this is what you have to like stay within. But in business, there's no rules.
And Logan, I was an athlete growing up. You were a Hall of Fame athlete.
I was a Hall of Fame athlete.
Come on, there's a difference between those two things.
Although the sport that I played is now, because of all the NIL stuff, I don't know if it's going to be a sport for my son when he is older. So we're trying to slowly save that bad boy, so they're not like, oh, I was a Hall of Famer, and they're like, in what? And I was like, oh, springboard diving, and he's like, what is that? So yeah. So, but I appreciate the call out. Maybe I should intro myself next time like that.
Yeah. Or yes, correct. And you got to be careful. You got to be careful on the ego thing. We got to balance the ego, because you throw out Hall of Fame and people are immediately intimidated. So you might have to weave that in gently.
Well, I'll start with because I made my high school Hall of Fame first. So maybe I say that like high school Hall of Famer, and they're like, wow. And then as we get through the conversation, then I'm like, oh, Virginia Tech Hall of Fame, and I slowly ease into it and just kind of gauge how they felt on like the high school one, because I don't think they're like Paper Ridge High School, you made Hall of Fame there. That's so yeah.
Keep that humility.
Yeah. All right. So we got sales dialed in. We're rocking. Production. I'd imagine this is where a lot of people like to start the conversations, because this is, I would say, from my perspective, 80% of at least of the remodelers that get into this business get into it because they love doing the craft. They don't love doing the financial systems or the operation systems. They love production. So talk to me about what is involved in the production system.
A lot. Obviously, our whole process from start to finish, the goal, the banner over the top is we need to give our clients a wonderful remodeling experience. So much of what we do, from the time they reach out to the time they sign the actual contract, we do a lot of work to give them a great experience. And then once the hammer hits the job site, that's where the experience really kicks in. So when you think of the production system, really having that banner over the top is we want to give them a wonderful experience. And if we think about what does that mean, it means a lot of the soft skills of managing the project happen. We are communicating impeccably. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, you nailed that.
Impeccably.
It was good.
We are making sure that we take such good care of dust containment and keeping the job site clean. We are asking them how they are feeling about things, if they have any questions. They understand when people are going to show up. And if we're showing up 30 minutes late, we communicate that to them. It was interesting when we had a remodel project done in our basement a few years back. I remember highlighting this to my clients when it happened, of going, you're running 15 minutes late. Maybe you call, maybe you don't. Is it really a big deal? Well, in this case, my wife was waiting for them to arrive so she could open the door. The 15 minutes caused her to have to skip her shower because she needed to leave to go to a kid's thing. That 15 minutes threw her entire morning off. And if she would have been communicated with, she would have been able to adjust that. So many little things. On the production system, I'll highlight a couple aspects of it. One is the pre-construction meeting. What is happening the week or two before the project's actually starting, and how are you doing with that? There's so many little holes you can fall in if you don't have the communication. Where are you going to use the restroom? Where are you going to park the vehicles? Can we use the garage or not? What about the dogs? What time are we starting? What time are we ending? How's the lockbox working? Where's the water shut off? Where's the electrical panel? Setting those expectations, having all of that figured out. And that is not the time to do that is not when you are also bringing your demo crew in. It's the week or two prior to have a really strong pre-construction meeting. That can really help a project start well and start strong, let alone if you bring your lead carpenter. Our carpenters and our team that swings the hammer, what I found is their mind is brilliant from a standpoint of if you can give them a clear visual of what they're doing and what's going to happen, and you get, let's say, even a few days before the project, their mind is going to be building it, and they're going to hit the ground running so much quicker. Their minds are brilliant like that, and their ability to do that is brilliant. So pre-construction meeting is one that I'm really hitting on, and then I would hit on, there's a lot in between, but I would also hit on the final 5%. We need a systematic approach to the final 5%. And in the interest of time, Logan, they should just type in Remodelers on the Rise, final 5%, and they're going to find a beautiful free training about that.
So it's funny because like when we're talking about this production system, we didn't even talk about the cool stuff of, what you're doing with the accent wall and all that. Like what you're talking about is the more boring stuff, but the more necessary stuff that from a client perspective, that example of that 15 minutes, we were in the same boat where we're just wondering like, is somebody coming today? And if so, when are they going to be here? Because we had a lockbox out there, but it's still like, do we need to make sure that we're here in case there's a sub coming over that doesn't know, so it's just all these little small things. And then I remember when I did that workshop with your group when they were here in Charlotte, I talked about like, look, that, over the weekend, like I know that you're off, but as a homeowner, that project is nonstop for us until it's done. It's not like, hey, from 9 to 5, the project's happening. We're now living in it as well. So all those little things of what you're bringing up, it is such a domino effect of all these things. I mean,
I call it kind of the soft skills of production. Like, you do a beautiful job. Great. But it's the communication, the scheduling, making sure things are happening on time, on budget. The other thing I would say about the production system is going back to the sales system, we didn't touch on it too much, but all of the work that you do in design and project development, if you do a half-hearted job there, your production's going to be clunky. I already know it. You're going to have more fires. If you really design your sales system so that you're doing a lot of detail in design and project development, I already have a layout of what the tile is going to look like. I don't have a bunch of allowances when I start the production phase. I've got things figured out. We've got them ordered already. Everything's good. It has a positive ripple effect in the production system. A lot of the fires, a lot of the last minute decisions, the delays, the time extensions, the change orders, a lot of that can be negated with a good, solid design and project development phase. So keep that in mind, remodeler, as you're thinking about that. You want your production system to go, smoother. What are you doing before a hammer hits the job site is really key to that.
Okay, so now we're dialed in, and to make the production system, I'm guessing, work really well, which a lot of it is those soft skills, we need the right people in place. I know we have dealt with that as a marketing agency of, do you have these more technician-esque people also be the ones that are communicating daily with clients? Maybe they're great at the behind the computer, but, being on the phone is a whole different ballgame. So the people side of things, like, I guess what even is a people system?
People system. I mean, it's kind of a fun way of saying it, right?
It is, yeah.
It's a people system. It's all the different, your in-house team, your trade partners, your vendors who are the heartbeat of your business. The people system. It is your list of employees and how you manage them. It's your trade partner list. Some of you need to be working hard on improving, I don't call them subcontractors. They're not sub anything. They're trade partners. Maybe needing to upgrade that. Your people system is paying attention to the capacity of your team. Some of your great employees might be underperforming right now because they're over capacity. They have too much on their plate. The people system is the training that we give our team. It's the efforts that we put into having one-on-one meetings with them to retain them. It's just leadership. So there's a lot that goes into this. And what I would say for remodelers listening to this, if you have any ambition of growing your business beyond yourself and maybe a couple part-time helpers, is just like we were talking about, where you need to be a student. You don't need to be the executor of marketing, but you need to be a student of marketing. The thing that people's eyes open up to as they grow their business is, wow, I'm in a leadership position. More and more of my day is spent leading people. And I see some people grow their business and still like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. And the sooner you embrace, I need to read leadership books. I need to be filling my mind with training related to being a better leader. I need to understand the difference between honey and vinegar. And I'm sitting here leading with a bunch of vinegar, and then I have all this retention issues, and people are leaving. Look in the mirror. I need to develop leaders in my team so they can be leaders to other people on my team. So that's a huge aspect of the people system. Is in my own business, I have 2 full-time employees, and then I have some peer group coaches. But even my 2 full-time employees, if you would ask me 5 years ago, do you like leading? No, it complicates things. I don't want to add more people and stuff. I love leading them. I love making sure that they're enjoying their work, that they feel supported, that they feel valued. The sooner you as a business owner embrace that, the quicker your business is going to grow. There's a direct correlation also. We've talked about direct correlation a couple times. There's a direct correlation between the quality of your people, in-house and trade partners, and the quality of your remodeling business. It is very rare that I see a bad leader with employees that are frustrated and they're kicking out a healthy remodeling business. Your people are so important. I'll say it, more important than understanding financials is being an incredible leader and developing your people.
So let me throw you a curveball question.
Please.
In your opinion, what is the difference between being a great leader and being a great manager?
Was I yelling too much, by the way? Was I getting too passionate?
No, I don't know. If the audio levels spike,
you looked over to Sean and Sean said it's okay. I'll move.
Sean gave me a double thumbs up.
Sorry, I was just fired up. We're recording this on a Friday morning. I was just kind of fired up this morning to try to bring some. I hope the people listening to this have gotten some value. By the way, if you're listening, so I'll answer your question in a minute. But if you're listening to this and you've heard some things that resonate, like pause a little bit and write it down. Hopefully you're not looking for 20 takeaways here, but if one resonated with you, I need to get back to that. Do something with that. Go in there and grab an hour meeting next week with 1 or 2 team members and focus on that. Go carve out some time for you to work in marketing or whatnot. So I encourage you. That's why you're listening to this podcast. That's why you do this work, right, Logan? It's like we're trying to educate people, but if you're just hearers and you don't actually implement, that's a problem.
I always find these are way better. Like the podcasts I listen to that I then send over to the team and go, let's all listen to this and let's talk about this. Like that is like the best way I've found to. Otherwise, I'm going back and I'm like, guys, there's these 6 steps. There's a roadmap, and they're like, who is Kyle again? So it's so much easier just to send this stuff out to everybody and then be like, great, let's have a conversation around it.
So the manager and leader thing, what's the difference between a manager and a leader? In my mind, I don't have much of a distinguishment between that. If you are a project manager, if you are an office manager, if you are a design and development manager, chances are you have people that are supporting that effort, that you are probably managing yourself. And so I use that synonymously. If you're a manager, you're a leader. / if you're somebody that works for my business, my company culture, the type of business we are, every one of us better be leaders. Every one of us. Whether you don't have anybody underneath you as a direct person, you're still a leader in the way you're communicating to your manager, to your boss, how you're interacting with our clients. So what was the heart behind your question, though? Why'd you ask it?
Just the reason behind it is a lot of what we are going through as a company is just understanding that like it's great to have this big vision and this is where we're going in 10 years and stuff, but ultimately like what do we need to be doing on a day-to-day basis and the accountability pieces and are people hitting metrics? Do they even have metrics? Do they even know what's expected out of them? So like all those little things because what I've always done up until we started doing EOS was I would come in and I would be like, guys, here's the vision. And I'd try to give this like heartfelt speech and I'm like expecting everybody to clap and just thank me.
Maybe
and
maybe even stand up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe
And
I'll bring
just
that one back. But it was just
slow, like a slow golf clap and a
yeah,
standing ovation.
and the more that I've like those just like they fall flat, and I'm like, guys, do you want me to like run through it again? Like, did you not hear what I just said? Like, this is incredible. Like, this is where we're going, you know?
Mhm.
So, and then the more that I realize it's like, hey, this is just basic. This is like what we need you to do. They're like, great, now I know. So it's flipping it from this passionate, emotionally driven, big vision thing that you see like on TV where they're like, we're Uber, we're going to revolutionize the taxi industry. And then everybody's like, yeah, like they're clapping and they're going crazy. But in reality, like I don't know how much everybody's like obsessed with the net
Yeah.
profit margin of the company, you know, like
Yes.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it is good reminder for the business owners listening to this. Like Bailey and Cassie on my team, they're never going to care about this as much as I do. Like, and I don't expect them to. Yet Bailey really loves this business. Like she really does. Like I can see it, and it's important for our team members to be empowered to do new things. Man, if you don't have new things for them to try, to sink their teeth into, to grow, your A players are gonna say, I'm out of here. From a leader standpoint, if you have a production meeting and it's super quiet around the table, next meeting, number one, start it with a win from last week. Get everybody talking before you start. But that carpenter over there, he knows that 10-minute slot that talks about training, whether it is I read this article and we're going to talk about this, I listened to this podcast and we're all going to listen to this 10 minutes, and I, as the carpenter, one of the lower men on the org chart, I'm going to lead that 10 minutes. Holy crap, his heart's going to be beaten out of his chest the week before. Oh crap, I'm up next week. But empowering your team to, it's not just coming from the managers down, but everybody is taking a part in certain aspects of meetings, and everybody knows that they're part of growing it. That's leader. Financials, step by step. I know that this plus this equals that. Marketing, yep, these KPIs, this happens. Sales process, I know step by step. Oh, leadership, ooh, baby, it is a murky, it is a blending of things. You're dealing with moods, you're dealing with what's going on in their personal lives, you're dealing with the relationship not only between you and that person, but that person and that person. You're dealing with so much. Leadership is a deep, deep pool of complexity and depth. But here's what I do know is spending one-on-one time with your team members, taking a pulse check on how they're doing, asking them what's going well, asking them how you can help them more, to asking them, how's your capacity? How's your stress level in work? How's your stress level in life, by the way? Having those one-on-one relationships like that, not that they're my best friend, but I have a pulse on how they're doing, helps me be a better leader.
Love it. Okay, let's go on. Let's say we nail it. We're great leaders. We know what we're doing. We feel confident. Here's the one that I think everybody listening to this is going to tense up a little bit, but operations.
Operations.
Yeah.
The software, the meetings, the processes.
I just feel like it's like when you say the word operations system, it's almost like the front desk lady in Monsters Inc., where she like that lady is like, that's the tone, and it's like operations.
If you email Kyle@remodelersontherise.com with the name of the front desk person in Monsters Inc., you will be getting a fresh Remodelers on the Rise hat. This is valid for the first 5 people to do it.
Do you actually know it, like offhand?
No.
Oh, okay.
I know. I have a visual of it. I think she wears purple. I kind of have a vision. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But here we are, X number of minutes in. It's gonna be amazing.
I think Sean's looking it up over there. I see him like whipping out his computer.
No, we're gonna make people work for it.
Yeah.
They've got to rewind it, find my email address. They've got to send the email. They got to look it up. Bonus points. I will throw in a sticker if you also send a screenshot of said character in Monsters Inc. But yes, operations. What do you need? What do you need? That kind of tone, I think, is what she has.
Yeah.
Super interesting from coaching for 16 years. You rewind the clock to 2012, 2014. We're talking 10, 12 years ago. So many conversations around, hey, are you going to start using that project management software? Nah, we got these spreadsheets. We're good there. COVID hits, year before COVID hits, years after COVID hits. Wow, has the implementation and the integration of software just really taken off in our industry. And our time and energy and money that we devote to making software hum, where it's organizing our sales process. It's helping us with our estimating. We're matching up our estimating with our financials, and I can see expected versus actual. Where I have a really nice project management software. When I go into a remodeling company and I say, hey, show me your job trend. Hey, show me your builder trend. Hey, show me this. And they show me their daily logs, and they show me their schedule, and they show me the client communication, and they show me how they're doing their job costing, and they can do that day by day. Oh, I'm looking at a remodeling company that is way more efficient, is saving a ton of time, and is really elevating the client experience and their ability to produce results for their company. So we gotta love the operations side, the software side, the meeting rhythm, the processes. I think most people listening to this actually love operations, Logan.
I would say once you start to throw in the software word, it's definitely being embraced more. Like it's no longer like I know when my dad got out and like I mean it's crazy. It's like he was not a big software person with the exception of he knew how to work QuickBooks and Schwab. Like those two things, but he still went to yahoo.com to type in
And I bet you in
google.com.
QuickBooks, he knew how to do the invoice, and he probably didn't care about the expenses and entering those in.
He was great, actually. He was every Sunday, he would just sit there and do all that stuff. But like, man, you throw another thing out. I mean, he had like a shortcut on his desktop to get to Facebook, like stuff like that.
Yep.
So, but now it's really become like, especially the more that like Job Trend and Builder Trend and all these companies are like, they're getting more intuitive and it's getting more, and I don't know if it's like an age thing of like, I'm 33. I think the iPhone came out in like '04 or something like that. Maybe that's the iPad or iPod, but either way, I mean, like we've kind of grown up with like apps and softwares and stuff are like common. So I don't know if there's a shift because it's just, we're more used to it. So we're like naturally looking for it, or if the softwares and apps are getting better, but either way, it is now like shocking if somebody doesn't have some sort of software already ready to roll. Like it's like nowadays, it's like if somebody comes in and like, hey, I've been in business for X amount of time and I've never had a website. And I'm like, okay, that's when I first started.
Shocking, right?
Yeah. I started CGN in 2017. That was a lot more common, but now the only people at this point that don't at least have a bad website are people that are like brand new. Everybody else pretty much has something. So the software side, I think, starts to get, people can definitely, especially if you're like the Peter Rains of the world, like you can nerd out over Job Trend or softwares like that.
Yeah, and going back to kind of the way you were saying, hey, a 1 out of 10 and turn yourself into a 5 out of 10 and ranking yourself there. I think the software side is like that of going, just keep finding the next right thing to work on there. There's so much you can do. And as long as you're making progress and you're making sure, so much of everything in business and life is about being consistent with it. So long as we're doing our daily logs in there, we're using it for scheduling, just continue to integrate that into our remodeling business. There's great efficiencies and profitability and productivity that comes from that. And then the other area on the operations side that I would just emphasize is kind of your meeting cadence. Back to the people system, back to frankly all these different systems. If I go into a remodeling company and they've got 8 people, and I say, hey, when was the last time the eight of you sat down and had a company meeting? And they say, it was about 6 months ago. And we scheduled one 4 months ago. Well, we got busy. I have a lot of insight into what that company is like on a day-to-day basis. If I ask that question, they go, you know what? Once a month, we meet as a full team. We have an agenda. The agenda's got some time stamps on it. So-and-so is usually our time keeper to make sure we're doing that. So-and-so usually takes our action steps out of that. And just really, we make sure we have fun. We do some training. We highlight things. I know a lot about that company as well. So think through your meeting cadence. Maybe you need to get back to some consistency with it. But a lot of times these meetings, we don't meet for meeting's sake. We don't want to be a company that just meets and meets and meets. But a good meeting cadence will allow us to kind of be humming along on these different systems a lot more than, well, we meet haphazardly. And guess what? If you're the owner of the company, if you're a leader of the company, make sure you show up on time. You start that meeting on time. You prioritize it, and people will follow.
Yeah, I read a book 8 months ago called How to Lead Engaging Meetings, and it was so helpful because the amount of just meetings for meeting's sake that was like, all right, let's all meet and we're just going to like brainstorm this. And it was just, once you add up the dollars and like the inefficiencies with it versus like, I know if I had just spent at least just 15 minutes and just said, hey, everybody, this is what we're meeting on. I'm going to send the information out ahead of time. This is what it's going to look like. It goes so much smoother and it's so much better. That was like
Would you recommend
groundbreaking.
that book? That book was really good. What was it called
Loved
again?
it. It's called How to Lead Engaging Meetings.
And remodelers listening to this, and myself included, if you suck, I don't usually cuss like that. I apologize, Logan. If you suck at leading meetings,
I thought you were going to switch over to stink, and then that way.
no,
I'm
feeling frisky this morning.
It is a Friday morning, man.
Suck. If you suck at leading meetings, that lack of skill in that is holding your company back tremendously. Stop it. Read that book. Try some things. Don't give me this crap of, well, we didn't get to agenda item 3 and 4 because we got stuck here. No. 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there. Have people prep better. 5P, proper preparation prevents poor performance. You heard Logan just give a glimpse of it. I send this out ahead of time. Everybody preps coming in so that when we're in the meeting, we actually talk about solving problems, not just giving a boring update on things. Learning to run effective meetings is a great unlock to continuing to be, if I may say, a remodeler on the rise.
Nice, man. That was good.
That was pretty smooth.
So we got financials, we got marketing, we've got sales, we've got production, then people, then ops. What is, if you could only pick one, Kyle, to coach on for the rest of your career, what would it be?
Financials.
You like it that much?
I didn't even hesitate, did I?
No, you didn't. Like, I think it's almost as if like you knew the question before I was even going to ask it.
And the reason is because for me, from a coaching standpoint, when somebody is struggling with their financials, it is directly impacting their life. I love fixing businesses and we're making more profits and look at how that system's working. But my heart of who I am and what I do, I want to make an impact on people's lives. And when we're struggling with our financials, the stress, your ability to feel in control of the business, it directly impacts your relationships, your marriage, your ability to be there and show up as a mom and a dad. I just know that when we get that piece in place and going from fuzzy with that to clarity, I see so many awesome light bulb moments that happen as a result of that just light me up. So that's the area that so many people struggle with. And there's a reason that I and every other business coach in our industry are always talking about know your numbers. We all are saying it because it's very, very important. So yeah, if you were to lock me in a room and say you only get to talk about the people system for the rest of your life, I'd be like, all right, fine. I mean, I like it all, but the financials is my answer.
What is one thing that I haven't asked you about this roadmap that you wish I would ask you?
No, what a beautiful question. You asked a lot of questions around how each work, and are we dabbling on each one of them and why the priority. So you asked, you did an impeccable job. So it's going to be hard for me to find a.
I asked all the things that are going through my head as a business owner. It's much easier to then go, well, it's so much. If I just get the right people, the financials work itself out. I know all the bargaining that I'm doing in my own head of well, maybe we don't need financials. Maybe we actually just need better So
yeah.
I'm
I would
doing
say,
this. Yeah.
I would say, the question of, that was good, but it was also a lot. Like, what do we do? What do we do with this? I would say, I like using that phrase, next right thing. You only have so much time to work on the business. If you really look at for a lot of people listening to this, 90% of your time is in the business. You're doing the estimates and production management and sales and all these different things. You only have 10% of your time maybe to work on the business. And too many times we try to do 6 different things with that small amount of time. So I would encourage you to really identify the next right thing. And instead of having 4 things that you're 50% implementing, take one and really implement it. And when you can stack the implementations and the improvements, you look up a few months later and you're like, I'm making progress. hey, we're better at that than we are. This project's going smoother because of that. So that would probably be the thing I would emphasize when we think about all the elements of the roadmap is now pick the next right thing to work on, and continue to also listen to podcasts like this and be inspired. You need to keep filling your tank of ideas and energy as well.
Cool. Love it. So Kyle, if somebody wants to connect with you or learn more about Remodelers on the Rise, how do they do it?
They can go to remodelersontherise.com. You'll see my pretty face right there. I think I'm kind of looking off to the side with a little smirk like that. And you'll see some of our programs for the companies that are kind of in that $1 million range. Our VIP club is a really great fit. For companies that are a little bit, have some of that foundation in place, we do peer groups, and that's a really good fit. We do some one-on-one coaching, so you can learn about that. I do a weekly podcast. Just type in Remodelers on the Rise. And then there's a wonderful Facebook group called Remodelers Community. If you go to remodelerscommunity.com, that's a wonderful community of folks who are very generous. And it's free.
Cool. Love it. Kyle, thanks for coming on, man. This was great.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.